My name is Siobhan. I am the organizer and I am the owner of Golden Bricks Events, an event company creating special events and festivals, highlighting diversity, equity, and inclusion, and celebrating life. So today we are here to celebrate Black folks and all the joy that we bring around us. But first I want to stop and recognize the land that we are on. Me and a number of the presenters today are coming to you from the Coast Salish land, specifically the Duwamish, and we want to honor them, their land, and the people. So today we have a fun-filled schedule, and we're going to just jump right on in and get the ball rolling. Lake Sammamish is the state park that we are highlighting this week, and we are going to start with a virtual tour. So let's get that going.
Hi everyone, my name is Allison. I work at the Washington State Parks Foundation. Today I'll be sharing with you all a wonderful resource from our foundation website that allows you to experience parks from the comfort of your own home, our virtual tours. Today we'll explore Lake Sammamish State Park, a 512-acre day-use park with almost 7,000 feet of waterfront on Lake Sammamish in Issaquah. Lake Sammamish has immense cultural significance to the many tribes that have lived in the vicinity since time immemorial, including the Duwamish, Sammamish, Snoqualmie, and Muckleshoot. The park features a deciduous forest and rich wetland vegetation, as well as a salmon-bearing creek and even a great blue heron rookery. If you've ever experienced the awe of seeing a great blue heron take off from the water or the trees, you know what I'm talking about. It's simply amazing. Later on in the program, we're actually going to be learning more about the great blue heron and the animals living in the Lake Sammamish ecosystem, so get excited for that. When you visit our website at waparks.org, you can access our virtual tours in a number of ways. Our homepage has a direct link to the virtual tours, but you can also type the name of the specific park into the search bar at the top. On the virtual tours page, you'll see the incredible array of tours available to you. These tours allow folks to preview a park they're considering, planning an upcoming trip, or even just revisiting their favorite state park experiences. We're going to click on Lake Sammamish, and as you can see, we can do that right now. It takes us first to Tibbetts Beach, where you can see people paddleboarding, swimming, and enjoying the beach. Growing up, my family lived along Lake Sammamish, and my father would take me kayaking on the lake. In the early mornings, the fog was so dense and low along the water that my dad had me guide us because, unlike him, I was short enough to see just below the fog. It was magical and serene, and we only stopped these kayaking trips when we discovered one year that a family of squirrels had made a home in the kayak in our backyard. As you can see, these days you can rent paddleboards and kayaks for your own water adventures, sand squirrels. What I love about these tours is that you get a full panoramic view. You can just click on the button at the bottom, and it takes you on a full 360-degree tour of the spot you're in. You click on the screen and drag up and down as well. You can see the ground and up at the sky. Let me take us back to where we are. Another cool feature is the little yellow and blue hiking person icons. If you click on it, it will take you on a walk in that direction. So let's give it a try. This way you can explore more of the park. And on the side of the virtual tour window, you can see the different areas of the park you can explore. You've got the beaches, the picnic shelter, the creek trail, and nature trails. This is a great way to see the park before you visit, so you can have a good idea of what sort of terrain you might encounter, where you might be able to set up a picnic, and where you might kick off a water or trail activity. My family frequented Lake Sammamish for picnics and outdoor gatherings with friends and relatives at the picnic shelter you see here. Lake Sammamish is a public gathering place where people from the surrounding communities come together to celebrate their heritage. Over the years, the park has hosted hundreds of cultural activities. Holi is one of these annual cultural celebrations. Holi is a Hindu spring festival in March, which takes place at the kitchen shelter. Throughout the day, all are welcome to throw colorful paint powder, dance to Indian music, and enjoy delicious Indian food. Nowruz is another cultural celebration that has become an annual tradition at Lake Sammamish. Nowruz is a Persian New Year festival that lasts 13 days and usually falls in mid-March. On the 13th day of holiday, known as Sizda Bedar, families pack a picnic and spend the day visiting with other community members who gather throughout the park. It's common to hear Persian music, see people enjoy asharishta, a traditional bean and noodle stew, and throw sabzi, or wheatgrass, into the water to symbolize the discarding of bad fortune. While large gatherings aren't possible at the moment, we're looking forward to a time when it's safe to do so again. In the meantime, we're enjoying solo and family activities at Lake Sammamish State Park, and we hope you will take advantage of these virtual tours to plan your adventures and relive your favorite experiences from the safety of home. Thank you all so much, and stay well.
Awesome. Thanks, Allison. That was amazing. Again, thank you all for switching over with us. And this is our first one of the series. So we're excited for those of you that have joined us. We're going to work out some technical issues that clearly we have today. But we're still here to celebrate, bring joy, have a good time, and appreciate all that is the outdoors and diversity and music and joy and all of those great things. I'd be remiss if I didn't take a moment to recognize that there is a lot of pain and suffering and loss that is going on in the world right now around racism and COVID. So I just wanted to stop and take a moment of silence to recognize that. Thank you. Again, thank you for being here today and just coming together and celebrating Black joy. That means so many things to so many different people. And I'm going to bring a friend of the program on, which is Zoser, who came out to Lake Sammamish with us just a few weeks ago and pre-recorded a segment, and he is coming in now.
Hello.
Hey, Zoser, how's it going?
It is going well. I'm living life, eating some food. Not right now, but getting food ready for later. So.
Awesome. Introduce yourself to the people.
Hello, everyone. I am Zoser. I am 20 years old. I'm a singer-songwriter / producer. And I've been living in Seattle for 4 years and met so many cool people while doing it. And I've just been performing all over the place.
Awesome. What does joy mean to you, Zoser?
Joy means, of course, the obvious, happiness. But joy also means to me whenever I just am playing music, because I'm constantly writing or constantly making different chords or whatever. And when I find something that clicks, I just feel so happy and all the problems in the world just go away. So that would be joy to me. But joy also can just be, eating some chicken nuggets on, on Monday, just regular old stuff.
That's awesome. Well, thank you again. And before we jump into your music, we talked when we were together at Lake Sammamish, we talked a little about Sundays and your background being from the South. So this is Sundae Sermon. What does Sunday mean to you other than ice cream sundaes, but the day Sunday?
What today, and just any Sunday means to me is rest. I grew up in the church. My family was devout, but not firmly devout, but we had a church background. So whenever we would go to church, we would always come back home, have supper, not dinner, supper, and then just sit on the couch, sit in the back room watching TV, and as for me, playing on my guitar and learning a new song. So Sunday is really just about taking time for yourself and resting and realizing that we all need a break sometimes, and Sunday is that perfect day.
Awesome. Well, we're going to kick it over to your music. I want to say thank you again. Thank you for coming out to Lake Sammamish. Thanks for jumping on today and talking a little bit about it, about yourself. Where can people find you, and do you have anything coming up?
People can find me at Zoser Official on all platforms. I'm going to spell that out, Zoser Official. And as for stuff that is coming out, I am releasing a new EP on August 5th called Evolve. It'll be on all platforms, and it'll be a different side of my music. So less of the singer-songwriter side and more of the pop soul type of side. Trying to bring new stuff into the stratosphere. So look forward to that, and anything else that comes after that.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, and we're gonna listen to you now.
Oh, thank you, and everyone have a nice day.
All right.
Back with the snacks. It's me, Zoe, and I'm about to perform Quarantine. Welcome to my village. I hope you're roaming free. I gotta say I'm the illest. All my life I'm a quarantine. I don't know what the deal is. But they running after me. Yeah. Welcome to my village. I hope you're roaming free. Gotta say I'm the illest. All my life I'm a quarantine. I don't know what the deal is. But I govern myself like Inslee. Yeah. Time is of the essence, I know that's for sure. If they relay this message, that means I'm on shore. Yeah, I'm a castaway like Wilson, no more numbers guaranteed possession. Got 100 million thoughts to see I catch him. Jay Green said he on the 3, whatever. Me, this is a corner schedule. I've been consistent since November. Got Chesapeake belt cause I'm a winner. So I'm wishing you luck next November. There'll be more sunny days, but I'd rather stay inside and let the record play. Macadelic from 9 to 5, go key, cause I'm feeling all the vibes. So baby, we about to be loved. Welcome to my village. I hope you're rolling free. I gotta say I'm the illest. All my life I'm a quarantine. I don't know what the deal is, but they running after me. Welcome to my village. I hope you're roaming free. Gotta say I'm the illest. All my life I'm a quarantine. I don't know what the deal is, but I govern myself like Inslee. Okay, now. Hot pockets, battle royale in the cockpit. Don't know if I'll be taunting, but I'm guaranteed that you'll log in. Don't know if this here is worth it, cause the whole world has steered its focus on something that was unimportant. Now it seems that we've aborted the mission. Do I need permission to see what Mother Earth has to offer? Will I be modest? I regret the day I become a scholar. I'm an adult, I'm an old soul. It's a cycle, so I bite slow. If a hill comes, bless a nitro. Let's end this on a high note. Welcome to my village. I hope you're roaming free. I gotta say I'm the illest. All my life I'm a quarantine. I don't know what the deal is. Why they running after me? Yeah. Welcome to my village. I hope you're roaming free. Gotta say I'm the illest. All my life I'm a quarantine. I don't know what the deal is. Gotta govern myself like Inslee. Yeah. Hello, I'm Zoser, Zoser the Barbarian, however you want to call me. This is Hometown Hero. Woo, woo. Okay, I hide behind these clouds to keep from coming down. I try to fill my doubts with people who are not around. I'm living every day in a different way, looking for some color to fill this world of gray. Yeah. 2009 was so long ago. Sometimes I sit back and wonder how much time's flown. Why keep myself in the past when I got places to go? This is out on the road. This is out on the road. Feeling good, feeling good. Everything is just how it should be. I finally think it's time to go beyond age. Gotta make sure they build a statue for me. I used to be a zero. Now I'm on the road. But never gonna go slow. Cause I'm on down. Doing it for the kids, I'm doing it for myself, I'm doing it for my health, I'm doing it for the wealth, and everybody wanna where I be. I'd be far away from the AUG, but I'm living life to the fullest, even though I'm acting foolish. Keep the camera but I'm focused, and everyone's taking notice. You may not know that shit. Grew up with a girl in my left hand, she me a good man. Living good, feeling good, everything's just how it should be. Time to go beyond this. Gotta make sure they will set you up there. I used to be a zero, now I'm a hometown hero. I'll never come close, no, 'cause I'm a hometown hero. That's how it should be. I finally think it's time to go beyond that bitch. Gotta make sure they don't set you up there. I used to be a zero, now I'm a hometown hero. Never come close, no, 'cause I'm a hometown hero. Hi, this song is Canvas. Also, I'm Zoser, if you haven't noticed already. You'll like it, I'm sure you will. No one really knew what I was into. No one really knew if I was okay. No one really knew what was my issue. Say I'm being away. Cause in the end, I paint my own canvas. I know my true colors, I know my shades. There's no gray in my own mixture, so there's no reason to make a change. I paint my own canvas. Your issue. What can he say? You bring what you are. You paint your own canvas. You know your true colors. You know your shades. There's no gray in your own mixture, so there's no reason to make a change. walls fall apart. Let those shadows go and be who you really are. Be unique, a freak, a geek, unusually petite. Beauty's all I see. We look better than what we see on TV. 'Cause in the end, we paint our own canvas. We know our true colors. We know our shades. There's no gray in our own mixture, so there's no reason to make a change. We've been on canvas, been on canvas. At us, explain why we're not enough.
That was awesome. Thank you again, Zoser. It was a really beautiful day at Lake Sammamish when we recorded that. And so thank you for coming out there and doing that. Again, Zoser, you can follow him on Instagram, Facebook at Zoser Official. And like he said, he'll have a project coming out next month. So go and support. All right, so I would like to take a minute and also thank our sponsors that helped put this on today, Washington State Parks, in particular, the folk and traditional arts program. Really appreciate the support and the opportunity to create this with you all. Let's talk about parks. Washington State Parks, such an amazing, amazing opportunity to get out. We have so many state parks. And one of the things that a lot of people know is state park passes. We have the Discover passes here in Washington State. But did you know that you could get a Discover pass at a library? There are select library systems around the state that allow you to check out a Discover Pass. Discover Passes can be a barrier to get into the outdoors, but through that program and many others, there's access to free passes as well. At the end of today, when you take the event survey, if you are in Washington State, you will be entered into a drawing for a free Discover Pass, and we will be giving out one Discover Pass every Sundae Sermon. So be on the lookout for that survey following the event. All right. So next up, we have a friend of Golden Bricks, Joy from Washington State Parks, and she will be talking a bit more about the parks and leading. If you have kiddos, tell them to gather around. She'll be leading a quick activity around nature.
Hello everyone, my name is Joy Kaczorowski and I work as a Parks Interpretive Specialist with Washington State Parks and Recreation Commission. Now, as a Parks Interpretive Specialist, my job is to teach people about the amazing cultural and natural resources of the state. A few years ago, I was fortunate to be able to work at Lake Sammamish State Park in Issaquah. And I say that I was fortunate for a variety of different reasons. Having grown up in the greater Seattle area, state parks such as Lake Sammamish State Park are very near and dear to my own heart. As a child, my family was all about getting outside, recreating, and playing in nature. Lake Sammamish State Park is full of fond memories for me. Lake Sammamish State Park is a park that's special not only to the people who choose to recreate there, but also to the wildlife which call this park home. And so today, I'm incredibly excited to talk with all of you a little bit more about the park. I hope today that we can all discover and explore Lake Sammamish State Park, not just as a beautiful urban park, but also as an important home to wildlife. Now, to get us started, when I say the word home, what do you all think of? What does home mean to you? What do you need in your home in order to survive, to be content, or to be happy? I'm going to give you all just a few moments to think about this. Did you all get a chance to think about what you need in your homes in order to survive? Well, I did as well. And in my home, I need my family, but I also need items that are like food, or even water, or perhaps some form of shelter, helping to protect me from the elements, the wind, the rain, or maybe even the sun that's beating down on a hot summer's day. And you know, after some thought, I also decided that I need space. I need space in order to grow, space in order to move around. Now, did you list off some of these things as well? I bet you probably did, because all living things within their homes, or what we like to refer to for wildlife, their habitats, need food, water, shelter, and space. Lake Sammamish State Park is an urban state park that's a little over 530 acres, which is fairly large for an urban green space and pretty amazing. Within the state park, we can find a wide variety of wildlife that live in these different habitats around the park. Some of these habitats can be found in forested areas, open fields, along the freshwater shoreline, within the wetlands, the creeks, or the streams. So how about we go discover some of the different wildlife that call Lake Sammamish State Park home? Have you ever seen a large skinny bird balanced on one foot at the edge of the lake? If so, you've probably found a great blue heron. With a long S-shaped neck and dagger-like bill, herons are able to hunt for their favorite food, fish and frogs. Be careful of getting too close, as when startled, these birds are quick to fly away. Though if you happen to see one in flight, I'd encourage you to stop to admire their amazingly large wings that can span over 6 feet from tip to tip, allowing them to soar. While walking along the edge of a river or creek within the park, have you noticed a pile of logs, almost like a dam? This pile was most likely purposely and carefully constructed by a beaver. Though not often seen, as they are crepuscular animals, meaning they are typically active at dawn or dusk, beavers build dams to flood shorelines and waterways, creating areas where they can easily hide from predators. As an animal with large webbed back feet, you can imagine that walking on land might be a bit of a challenge. Have you explored the trails within the park? Perhaps you've taken a corner to hear a quick rustle. The animal disappearing in the woods was most likely a deer. Commonly seen around the park, deer are naturally a skittish animal, preferring to bed within the thickets in the woods and keep their young close. Always remember when you see wildlife to maintain a safe distance and never feed them. Help keep our wildlife wild. Or maybe you have enjoyed sunset within the park and seen small creatures flying in odd patterns around you. These creatures are bats, and though not everyone's favorite animal, they are incredibly important to us. Did you know that a little brown bat can eat over 1,000 mosquitoes in 1 hour? There are many animals which call Lake Sammamish State Park home, beyond the ones that I just mentioned. Lake Sammamish State Park, again, is over 530 acres, and there's habitats all throughout the park for wildlife to survive, having the food, water, shelter, and space that they need. Now, these animals I've listed off, or these animals that we know live within the park, also probably live within your own backyards. That's one of the amazing things about urban state parks. I'd like to encourage you all to take some time, either today, tomorrow, later this week, or even later this month, to walk around your own backyard, your own community, and see what sorts of habitats you can find, or what sorts of animals live within your backyard. I'd encourage you to start a nature journal to document what you're seeing, or perhaps if you're feeling crafty, maybe you'd want to create your very own habitat crown. Hello everyone, I'm very excited that you're here to make habitat crowns today. Now, in order to make your habitat crowns, you're going to need a couple of craft items. What I have here on the table are my habitat crown base, which I've connected by using some strips of construction paper. I've chosen to connect them with a stapler, which seems to work out a little bit better than glue, just so you know. So I have my crown base. I also have 4 cards that you can go ahead and cut out and then write on, or you can print off from your computer. my cards say shelter, food, space, and water. Those 4 different things that we need, or all living things need in their habitat to survive. I also have some glue, as well as some items that will help me to draw on my habitat cards to then put onto my habitat crown. You can use markers, crayons, whatever you happen to have at home. So to get us started, you first need to think a little bit about what is an animal that's within your own backyard or your own community. Well, an animal that I sometimes see really early in the morning as I'm going into work or very late at night as I'm coming home is a coyote. Now, a lot of folks don't love coyotes, but I do, because this here is their natural habitat. Now that I've identified an animal that lives within my own community, the coyote, I need to think a little bit about what does this animal need to survive? What is a coyote's food, water, shelter, and space? And then I'll go ahead and either write or draw those on my cards. So if I think about it, well, for water, there's a lake that's really close to my house, and I bet the coyote that I see oftentimes gets water from this lake. So I'm gonna go ahead and draw a lake on my card here. And you can be as detailed as you want. And again, if you don't like to draw, that's totally fine. You can go ahead and write it down and maybe describe what that lake looks like. But I'm gonna go ahead and draw the lake, maybe add a couple of trees around this lake, because it's a pretty forested area. And for purposes of today, I don't think I'll do too many details, but to help you kind of get the point. Now let's look at another one of our cards. Food. What do coyotes like to eat for food? Well, coyotes are what we call opportunistic eaters, and they'll eat pretty much anything they can find. They're actually omnivores, eating both plants and animals. And I've heard of coyotes eating a berry that we have here in my backyard called a salmon berry. And I bet some of you probably have salmon berries in your own backyards as well. So I'm gonna draw this bush. And on this bush, I'm gonna draw a bunch of little salmon berries. And maybe I'll actually include a couple other different food sources, because I know coyotes will eat pretty much anything. So maybe I'll draw even a small mouse, because again, coyotes are carnivores. It's really up to you, to whatever you want to put on your cards. Now my next card, shelter. What does a coyote use for shelter? Well, coyotes live in dens, and these dens can be in the sides of hillsides, or they can be in other locations. And I think probably in my area, it's going to be the side of a hillside, or maybe the bank of a stream. So I'm going to go ahead and draw a hole in the ground that is my coyote's den. Awesome. Okay. And finally, my last card is space. And space is usually the hardest card to draw or to describe. But when I think of space, I think of the area that includes the food, water, and shelter. And I think of the habitat that I see around me. So our coyote within this location where I live lives in a forested area. So I'm going to show on my space card a nice forested area with lots of space for my coyote to live and be happy within its own habitat. Go ahead and draw on a few trees here. Okay, once you've gone ahead and you've completed drawing in and filling out your food, water, shelter, and space card, the next step is to attach these cards onto your habitat crown. You can do so with glue or a stapler, whichever works out easiest, or I guess even tape too. Once you go ahead and you get them attached onto the base of your crown, get someone to help you out and make sure your crown measures around your head, and you can happily and proudly show a creature that lives within your own backyard or community and the habitat that it has. Well, thank you all so much for joining me for this craft. I hope you enjoy doing it at home.
Well, I'd like to thank you all for joining me today for this short program about Lake Sammamish State Park. I hope you're all able to learn something a little bit more about this amazing urban green space and discover how it's not that much different than our own homes. I hope you enjoyed learning about some of the wildlife that live within Lake Sammamish State Park, and I hope that you feel inspired to look for wildlife and habitats within your own backyards and communities. I'd like to invite you all to come on out to Lake Sammamish State Park or one of our other state parks sometime, and I hope that you find that these state parks feel like home to you as well. State parks are protected not only for the natural and cultural resources, but also for the enjoyment for all of us. So again, thank you so much for joining us from Washington State Parks.
Awesome. Thank you, Joy, for going out and taping that for us and talking about Lake Sammamish. You don't have to be a kid to make yourself a crown or keep a nature journal. Actually, since we've been in COVID, I actually have been doing a nature journal because I've had a lot of little friends, birds, on my patio. And so I've been writing a lot about them, but also just everything that's been going on during this time. And I want to give a special shout out to Seattle Audubon, who is a returning sponsor. We started Sundae Sermon last year at Lake Sammamish, and they were a great partner last year and are partnering again. So thank you, Seattle Audubon. Today we're celebrating joy, and I wanted to see in the comments if you all would share what joy means to you, what brings you joy, what has been a joyous thing since we've been in lockdown. Like I said, mine has been nature journaling and connecting with the birds on my patio. I also wanted to share that every week that we have Sundae Sermon, we're picking an organization to encourage folks to support. And this week we are choosing PGM1's Black Joy Fund. PGM1 stands for, I'm reading this off the script, People of the Global Majority in Outdoors, Nature, and Environment. PGM1 envisions a world that centers, values, uplifts, and empowers those who are most impacted by environmental harm and climate change. In particular, Black, Indigenous, people of color / people of the global majority, to lead the way toward environmental justice and collective liberation. Last year, I got to attend their national conference, and there were so many moments of joy. So I am happy to be able to support this fund that is going directly to support Black people finding joy in this very troubling time. So I hope you join me. We're going to drop the link in the chat, and we'll also share that out at the end of the event. PGM1 is such a great, great community. And so I am just really thankful to have the space with them. It is an affinity space, so it is only for BIPOC folks, Black, Indigenous, people of color. But as non-BIPOC folks, there are also ways to support, like giving to this fund. So speaking of community, I'd like to welcome Joseph from Black People Hike onto the program. Let's get him in, and we're gonna have a little conversation. Awesome, good to see you again. Actually, I met Joseph last year at Sundae Sermon, and then I've joined I think I was part of the Black People Hike group on Facebook, but I want you to introduce yourself and tell the folks about Black People Hike.
Okay. Greetings, everyone. My name is Joseph Mitchell. Currently live in Seattle, originally from Chicago, Illinois. And I've been in the Seattle area for 12 years, and I am here to represent Black People Hike. Black People Hike is a social group that encourages exploring outdoors, but particularly getting the Black people to take advantage of all the great things Washington has to offer, or just this period out in the outdoors. We've been in existence since 2013. I've been involved with the organization since 2015. And the main goal that I have with the organization is to introduce the outdoors as they were introduced to myself.
Awesome. Can you tell us about how you got started? When you said 2015, you got started with them, but how'd that all come about?
Well, it was pretty just like how anyone else, I was invited on a hike one day. I was sitting at lunch, minding my own business, and one of my friends invited me, said, "Hey, Joe, do you want to go on a hike?" And I'm the type of person that's willing to try. I've never been on a hike before because we don't have mountains in the Midwest. It was not anything that I had ever even considered. It wasn't on my to-do list. It wasn't on my bucket list. It was, I was aware there was mountains here, but it just never dawned on me to go on a hike. So I figured I would need at least a pair of boots to go hiking. And I think I probably wore some jogging pants, just assuming that it would be pretty cold. One of the mistakes I made was, at the time, again, I never knew anything about hiking, never had any experience. So I have some old Timberland boots that I had for probably like 12 years, never ever wore them really. And needless to say, on the hike, on the way up the mountain, one of the soles came off. And then on the way back down the mountain, another sole came off. So I was practically walking on the mountain barefoot. But I really enjoyed the perspective of being on the summit and just being able to take a look at the world at a different point of view that I've never experienced before, outside of being inside of a building. So that's one of the things that I like to do, is try to pass on that gift that was given to me, and I introduced the outdoors in particular to Black people. That many people that actually originate from Seattle, sometimes some things you take for granted. The mountains are there, and it's there. Just like for me, if I was to go to the Sears Tower, I mean, I've never really been to the Sears Tower, but if I was to visit Chicago, that might be one of the first things I do. So I look at it the same way, and I really try to get people to get out and enjoy what's actually here for free.
Nice. So 2 questions for you. One, where was your first hike? You said you summited.
The first hike I summited was a Rattlesnake Ledge, one of the more popular hikes here. Yeah.
That was my first hike in Seattle too, so I respect that. Awesome.
I tell people all the time, Rattlesnake Ledge is one of those hikes. If someone said they've done one hike, it might have been Rattlesnake Ledge.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's easy. It's like a good starter hike. That's awesome.
Right.
Why do you, I know you said you specifically want to do this for Black folks. Why? I mean, I love Black folks, so maybe that's your why, but why so specific in that action?
Well, when I moved here, I lived in Atlanta and Chicago, and when I moved here, I was trying to do things that, you would do in those cities, and that's not really what Seattle has to offer. Seattle, it moves at a different pace. And again, the main thing is that I just realized that I can't be the only one that was in that position. And, you talk to your friends, and it just never comes up to, hey, let's go on a hike. So I think it's a space, it's a niche there's a void in that. There's a niche and there's a void that we're here to fill. And, it's a free activity. It's good exercise. It's good mentally, physically, spiritually. And I think, we should take advantage of those activities more.
Awesome. So tell the folks specifically what to expect if they were to go out on a hike with Black People Hike.
Oh, wow. So you'll enjoy what you would expect is a friendly, open environment full of friendly faces. So the first thing that we do on our hikes is make sure everybody introduces each other. Everyone introduce themselves, give a quick 15-second spiel, where they're from, what brought them to Seattle. I always get an idea of the experience levels. So I always check to see how long someone's been hiking, or if this is their first hike, and be able to point out the more experienced hikers if I'm not particularly around. We have a couple of ground rules. We never leave anybody behind alone. One thing you understand is people hike for different reasons. And some people hike for the exercise, to run up the mountain. Other people hike to enjoy nature and take pictures. Some people just hike just so they can be in quiet, So understanding that, the only rule that I actually have, the main rule that I particularly endorse is do not leave anybody behind alone. I usually, so we encourage conversation between everyone. The great thing about hiking is there's nothing else to do but to enjoy nature and enjoy your company. So it's a great opportunity to network with other people that are, that are coming along on a hike. And you can expect to be challenged. I mean, there's no, it's a mountain for a reason, and it's called hiking for a reason. And there's a challenge, and it feels real good when you see people struggle or have doubts or, just work, and to see the confidence and the sense of accomplishment that they have once they do summit a mountain, or, we get to the end. It's just, wow, it's a good thing to put on someone's list. And it's like a opportunity, like a springboard for them to do other things. Because some people say they would have never done it. They would have never finished it, so it's a springboard for other opportunities.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And in this time of COVID, how are you all engaged in your community? Are y'all still getting out?
Yeah, so what we do is we still organize hikes, but we emphasize wearing the proper PPE, still social distance. And one of the things that we do is we start early. So most people generally start hiking around 9 o'clock. We start earlier than that, like around 7:30, just to reduce the amount of path crossings that you will encounter. I think it's still important to get out, even though we have to practice safety. It's still good to just change the pace and do something a little different, just to break up the monotony. Because I know for myself, I get to the point where I get days mixed up. You can't tell Monday from Wednesday from Friday, and that's a great way to break the monotony and just get out there and do something for yourself, actually.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. So I've been asking everybody these two questions. What does Sunday mean to you, and what does joy mean to you?
Sunday is a day to rest, to reset, to worship. Sunday is a day to where it allows you to prepare for the next week. Proper preparation is always gives it's 50% of everything that you do, and it gives you an opportunity to just reflect and make improvements and make the next week, put work into making the next week better. And joy, I think it's the ability to pursue your passions without distractions. To pursue your passions and pursue the things that really move you, and without any outside noise, to take you away from that.
Awesome. Awesome. If anyone has any questions for Joseph, go ahead and drop them in the chat. As we get toward the end of my questions, let's see if anyone else has any questions. Another thing we were talking about earlier this week is you do other things. This is not even the only thing you do. Can you tell folks about the other community work that you are doing?
Oh, sure. So I have a nonprofit that I'm forming called Minor Input, Major Impact. And every year we host a homeless care packing party, where we build care packages with socks, hand warmers, hand sanitizers, snacks, water. And we do this, and the idea is we create the bags, and then when you encounter a homeless person, you give them the bag, and then they'll have, be able to put on a clean pair of socks, clean pair of dry socks, have a bottle of water, hand sanitizers, things like that. That event, I host that event on the Saturday before the Super Bowl. Do that for a couple of reasons. For one, we used to host it right around the Christmas time, and some of the feedback I received was that there's a lot of initiatives that happen around that time of year, then everything sort of stops. So and competing with vacations and Christmas shopping and New Year's plans, instead of competing with all that, I pushed it to the Saturday before the Super Bowl, because then, even though the actual date changed, everyone knows when the Super Bowl is going to happen. And so you don't really, the date doesn't, you just take the date factor out of people saying, when is it again? It's the Saturday before the Super Bowl. This past year, we were able to create 1,478 care packages. And again, ideas, some people, one of my main things is I like to empower people to, to do, like just like with the Black People Hike, I empower people to help out. And when some people, they'll take the care packages to like over on Jackson Street, where there's a ton of homeless people and just hand them out all at once. Other people take their care packages and take them to like a women's shelter or something. What I do is I have the care packages in the back seat of my car, and then whenever I'm getting off the expressway and I see a homeless person, I give them one. So it takes me a while to get rid of my packages, but it's just doing what you can. I just think of it as if I was in a position, what's the least I would want someone to do for me, or that's something I would appreciate, and I just go with that thought. Another thing is I instruct Chicago style stepping. So that's a partnered dance, sort of like West Coast swing or salsa. And it's more of an urban dance where, just originated in Chicago and something I've been doing here in the Seattle area for at least the last 7 years. So again, it's another way to get people out, because that's one of the things I've realized was there's not a lot of events like that where you can just go for grown folks, listen to some good music, and watch people dance gracefully or just dance together, So dancing is a way of, it's like a relationship sort of, and you get the opportunity to express the song through dance. So I'm real passionate about that. And just the main thing is to increase or to build the community to where it gives people options to do something else, the ability to do something else and just relax.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I didn't know you were doing all that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
It looks like we have one question in the chat, and it says, what happens if someone gets to the top of the hike and can't get down?
Oh, well, we would help them. It would take long. We just assist them all the way down. I mean, that's happened to me before, where got to the summit, or I was almost at the summit and caught a very bad Charlie horse in my cab, and we actually sat up there for a couple of hours waiting for, trying to let it go, trying to ease it. And basically we just stick together, and it'll take a while, but we would assist you to get down. We do a lot of communication. That's the main thing. We also have training. So one of the things that we're doing now is we want to train our hike leads in first aid. And Washington Trail Association has a hike lead training available. So that was one of the things we wanted to push this year before COVID hit. But that's another thing. I mean, everyone, at least I'm trained to be first aid. We provide first aid assistance, and we want to do that with some of our more consistent participants.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, shout out to Washington Trails Association. They are also sponsoring Sundae Sermon. They are very active in making sure that people are safe out there, that how the trails are, all of those good things. So Joseph, anything coming up for Black People Hike, and any last things you want to make sure people know, how to get in touch with you all that great information?
Sure. So one of the things that we're starting to do is we're starting to expand. Again, the idea is to get Black people outdoors. So July 24th, we're hosting our first Black people camp, and that's going to be held at Lake Wenatchee YMCA. And the idea is, again, we want to try to schedule in the future one camping trip per month during the summertime. Again, to break up some of the monotony and to do other things differently. We also, every year, we usually host a Black people float. So you get on the inner tubes and just float down the lazy river for a couple of hours.
Last year, I tried so hard.
Right. So we're looking into it this year, but we have to check the events page, see if we can make that happen. And then we also got some other things in mind, like Black people bike, and some hikes at like Mount Rainier and some of the national parks. Right now, we do a lot of hiking in the Snoqualmie and in the Cascades, I guess, area, and we are going to expand that to more to Olympic Peninsula, Mount Rainier, and some other places. Our next hike is going to be August 1st, because we have couple camping trips coming up, but our next hike is going to be August 1st on Wallace Falls. And the best way to get in contact, there's a few ways to get in contact with us. We have the Black People Hike Facebook page. So just send a request, and once you're on the page, we have an events tab where we list all of our events. For those that are not on Facebook, we have you can send an email to blackpeoplehike@gmail.com, and then we'll add you to the distribution. And then that way, when we post a hike, because we understand everybody's not on Facebook, or everybody doesn't check Facebook regularly. So you can send an email to blackpeoplehike@gmail.com, add you to the distribution. When we set up an event, you'll get that information. We also have BPH, We Out Here on Instagram. And again, the best way to get that information is send an email. We're always willing to respond and quick and answer any questions anyone might have.
Awesome. Well, 2 quick questions before I let you go. 2 more questions came in. Do you coordinate group hikes with Washington Trails Association to climb Rainier or St. Helens?
No, we haven't.
No, okay.
We haven't done any coordination with WTA, or St. Helens or Rainier.
Okay. And then you mentioned your shoes. What's a good hiking boot now? What shoes are you hiking in now? I love Merrell's, so my hiking shoes are usually Merrell's. Right. I've been riding with them for years now.
So when it comes to hiking boots, there's tons of different boots available and at a lot of different price points. What I always tell people is to always look at the sole. What you want is you want a sole that is going to grab on the way up and kind of help you not slide on the way down. And then after that, you also want one that's waterproof, water resistant, with a firm sole, because some of the terrain that you're stepping on can get real rocky. It changes up so much. The shoes that I wear are Cabela's. I have a pair of Cabela boots that I wear. But I've seen shoes, the ranges of the shoes, the prices of the shoes range. I've seen people with $30 boots, seen people with $100, $200 boots. But for me, the main thing is have a good sole that has various ranges of grip. And whenever you get your boots, make sure they fit, because when you go downhill, what tends to happen is the boot is too big, your toe tends to slide, and when you're walking down, 4 or 5 miles and consistently like that, that can tear your feet up. Especially, it can tear your feet up. So that's what I would suggest more so over particular brands, is make sure you have a good firm sole, waterproof, water resistant, and make sure it's the right size. Don't get a boot that's too big, because you don't want to move.
And before you go on a real hike.
What's that?
I said, start breaking them in before you get out there going on a real hike too, because that will mess you up as well.
And then another thing is, before you go on a hike, always read the information. The Washington Trail Association has information on every single hike, and they also have trip reports of people that have recently been on the hike, like within the past few days. It will help out a lot to always check the trip, read the hike description so you understand what you're walking into, literally, and read the trip reports, because they will give you information on, just recent activity or just the conditions, current conditions of the trails. Those are 2 things that I always do, and I encourage other people to do the same thing before they go out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being here today. I appreciate it. I am going to get out there with you all eventually, but I appreciate it. And everybody go follow Joseph, go follow Black People Hike Facebook, Instagram at We Out Here, and use that email, Gmail, blackpeoplehike@gmail.
Right.
Thank you, Joseph. There you go. Awesome. All right, y'all. Well, we are almost to the end. We have a few more things. Don't leave us just yet. If you join late, again, my name is Siobhan. I am the organizer. I am the shuffler of screens here, coming to you from my living room, of course. Our artist video for the day.
What does Sunday mean to me? Sundays used to mean dread and depression and lots of crying. And Sundays for me now mean a refresh, the start of a new week. I spend the weekend kind of returning to an equilibrium. I feel very lucky in that at this moment I have the ability to create my own schedule, which has been part of the art therapy, which has been part of healing from work burnout. And so I use Sundays as a time to look forward in a positive way, which had not been the habit for a while. My name is Sabella, and I have a multidisciplinary art practice under the name The Monarch, where I do gouache painting, I do oil painting, and analog photography with collage and pattern making. So it's a lot. I got into art at a very young age. I grew up on the south side of Chicago. That's where I'm from originally, and there are not a lot of resources and things to do. But my mom did a really good job of making sure that we were always very busy, and she did that by bringing home the scraps of art paper from the architectural firm that she worked at. She's been an accountant there for, 30 years. And they would draft on these giant rolls of paper, and then they'd be done with it. This is like a little bit before computers were a thing. So she would bring home these gigantic rolls of like bare trash paper, and then I would just draw and paint on them all summer. And I'm sure that helped keep me and my sister out of her hair for a while, but she didn't know that she was helping me foster creativity, and I would try to keep that in my life going forward. So this piece today I painted is a creation made of gouache paint and Posca markers, which are acrylic-based markers. And when I was sketching this portrait out, I'm already working on a set of portraits for a series that's called Portraits of Black Women I Have Yet to Name. And so I felt like she might fall into that series, but one thing that series doesn't do is it doesn't show overt emotion. And I found myself correcting as I was painting, because I did want to make her seem like she was a little bit joyous. I like to keep the emotions subtle in that series, but this one will be a little bit outside of that, because we're here today, being joyful and exploring the outdoors, and I wanted to reflect that in this piece. The process for creating this piece started with me creating a mood board. So because I knew that we would be here, I looked at a lot of images of people relaxing in nature. So I have a lot of shots of people laying down in tall grasses, of women with flowers in their hair, because I wanted to make a mood board that would reflect how people feel when they are in nature, which is kind of joyful and relaxed. And from there, I tend to do poses that are kind of cropped, and so I carried that into this piece, creating the sketch of the face. And then when I got here this morning, I walked around and I took photos of the lake, I took photos of the sky and the leaves, and then there was the canoe rental area. So what I was taking photos of there was the brightly colored canoes, and I knew I wanted to do something with that, and that ended up being reflected in the background. So this gradation is directly inspired by one of the canoes that was gradating from blue to white. And then I know I have a tendency to get really deep into the details. I have paintbrushes that are like 1 or 2 hairs thick, and I knew that I would not be able to have that same amount of detail, and I wanted to make sure that I completed a piece and that it was a reflection of the space I was in. And so I wanted to make a background that was kind of a combination of the greenery that I was seeing. So we were in an area that had lots of flowering grasses and tall blades of grass, and so I abstracted that in the background using gouache paint. And then some of the details you see are with those Posca markers, which allow me to color broad areas in solid opaque, and then I can just use a paintbrush to feather out the edges if I need to. So Portraits of Black Women I Have Yet to Name is a series that I started as a form of art therapy, and I started it while I was actively burning out from work, and it was a way for me to deal with this tension that I felt of trying to be this professional. Calm is a word that a lot of people will say when they say what it's like to work with me, and that is a true thing. But at the time, there were lots of things happening at work that warranted much stronger emotions that I didn't feel as a Black woman that I would be safe in expressing. And so the very first portrait of that series, Portrait 1, is the one that I feel like definitively, she's like, her look, she's glancing over and saying, like, whatever it is you're doing over there, I'm no longer interested. And that's exactly how I was feeling. But I wanted to keep the subtlety of emotion going throughout the series, because I also want people to see a reflection of themselves and also impose their own view of what that emotion is based off how they're feeling. So it's not me creating a visual diary only about me. I want it to be a conversation with whoever's looking at it. So growing up on the south side of Chicago, people ask me where I'm from, and I tell them, you don't know, and it's because I lived further south than Sox Stadium, so like where the White Sox play, kind of in this black spot of Chicago, like the south and the west side. And I think what a lot of people forget is that when they're driving through those areas, they can see how there's been a lack of funding, there's been a lack of resources, a lack of things to do, and people forget that there are children and families living in those neighborhoods. And my sister and I, and my mom, we were one of those families. And I think in my mom's bid to make sure that we were not only retaining what we were learning from school, but that we were staying away from the things that were dangerous in our neighborhood, she really encouraged us to find the things that we were interested in. One of those things was horror. So I loved reading, I had the entire collection of R.L. Stine. And so a lot of my drawings were kind of like scary stories in the dark type of drawings. If I look at they weren't this nice and pleasant. But those are my two interests, and my mom didn't shy away from it. She's also a huge horror fiend, so she birthed a child that also was into horrific things. Just finding ways to stay safe. Inside, stay safe outside when you're hanging with friends. Find something that interests you so much that you're not going to be tempted to kind of, get involved in other things that could harm you or, side rail you. Lake Sammamish is beautiful. I had my first jet ski experience on Lake Sammamish when I first moved to Seattle. I also fell off a jet ski in Lake Sammamish, so I also have that memory. And yeah, I mean, the beaches here are very different than what I'm used to in the Midwest. We have, yellow sand and the water is warmer. So I definitely had to gear up in a different way to be able to enjoy Lake Sammamish. But I love being by bodies of water. I feel like I'm a water baby. I find so much like quiet and calm just looking at the water. And it's kind of why I want to make sure that I stay by bodies of water no matter where I move to next. I think public green spaces are important, and access to public green spaces are important, especially for communities of color who live in cities, because I think as humans, it's not a mistake that when we enter nature, we seem to find a bit of serenity. And when you're dealing with a lot of Black and brown people in this nation have to deal with on a daily basis, it's important to be able to step out of those communities and those areas that are kind of constantly adding to that friction, to give yourself something that will just kind of even you out and chill you out and relax you out, and just is something that's drastically different from your current living environment. Unless you already live in the woods, then maybe you want to come into the city. But for us here in Seattle, we live in a city. It's nice to be able to have access to greenery. And sadly, I feel like part of it in the beginning may be that you feel okay being in the woods because there's not a lot of people here. And I'd like to see that changed, where I don't want to feel welcome in the woods because no one's here. I want to feel welcome in the woods because it doesn't matter that I'm here in the woods. No one really cares. That's the goal. What does joy mean to me? I've found as I've gotten older that joy has become less of this huge, loud, in-your-face sense of happiness, but it could be something, instead it could be something as quiet as just being near someone who you enjoy being with, or who you love, or who you care about, and relishing in that. One example that I have that I feel like is the epitome of my answer is right after I quit my full-time job, I was still in this mindset that I had to be always doing something, go, 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 go. And I was sitting on the couch, and my little dog had come over, like done his little like walk around and like sat in my lap. And in my head, I'm just like going 1,000 miles a minute. And I look down, I realize that he's slowly falling asleep on my lap. And I'm like, oh wait, like I get to just sit here and enjoy this. Like it may be silly, but I just get to sit here and enjoy watching this little dog just like get super comfortable near me and fall asleep, and just like not have to worry about anything else. Yeah, that's what joy means to me. It's a small dog falling asleep near you.
That's awesome. Thank you again, Sabella. The piece that you created is so beautiful, and it really represented the day. I remember when we walked up, and like you said, there were the tall blades of grass and the flowers, and it was just a really beautiful moment. I just want to take a pause and say thank you all for sticking with us throughout our technical difficulties today. In the midst of it all, I still am so happy and so joyful that you all are here with us today, and the importance that nature has in our community, for our community, and the joy that is in the soul because of Black folks in America. So one, I just want to say thank you for tuning in still or coming back and with us. Thank you, Sabella, for that piece of art. It is beautiful. It is in my apartment right now, and gonna figure out what we're gonna do with it down the line. But I just wanted to pause and say thank you all. We have about 2 more things, and we'll wrap it up for the day. Next, I want to bring in a guest from Mountain to Sound Greenway. Caroline as I'll let her introduce herself, but Mountain to Sound Greenway is the organization that actually introduced me to Lake Sammamish when I helped coordinate a volunteer project with them about 5 years ago. So, Caroline, you there?
Hi.
Hey, welcome.
Hey,
Can you
thanks for
introduce
having me.
yourself? Absolutely. Can you introduce yourself and what you do for Mountain to Sound Greenway Trust?
Yes. So I'm Caroline Villanova. Oh, sorry, I haven't really spoken in a little bit. I work with the Greenway Trust as the volunteer program coordinator. So I've been with the organization for just about 3 years now, and have been able to really get to know this landscape and the landscape of the Greenway, which stretches from Seattle all the way to Ellensburg with I-90 as the backbone, and really in a way that I appreciate so much is like through the community work of the volunteer program. So I grew up on the other side of the I-90 corridor, so in the Boston area. But I have been in Seattle for about 4 years now, and I'm really enjoying the area for a lot of the reasons that some of the other panelists and videos before me described.
Awesome, awesome. Can you tell everyone what you all do specifically at Lake Sammamish and everything that's happened there?
Yeah, so the Matchington Greenway Trust is an organization that's been around for 30 years. It celebrated its 30th anniversary this summer, and it really started in the Issaquah area with a group of concerned citizens who saw the growing area of Seattle as a city, and also was wanting to protect the landscape that attracts a lot of people to this area, and that people who live here really appreciate. So there was this combination of factors that led to the birth of a nonprofit organization to really do a lot of that connection to nature, because as an organization, we really believe that when we're connected to nature, we're happier and we're healthier. So there's been a lot of steps in order to make that possible. And since a lot of the heart of our organization begins in Issaquah, and Lake Sammamish State Park being right there kind of just joined so well for this public partnership that we as an organization really support. So we've been able to actually have a location where all of our field programs begin inside the state park, and that really coincides really well with the habitat restoration and trail restoration we've been able to do with Washington State Parks and other community partners like Friends of Lake Sammamish State Park and Trout Unlimited, who also work out of the park along Issaquah Creek. So we've been doing habitat restoration along Issaquah Creek. So there's about a mile stretch of that creek that runs through the park and empties into Lake Sammamish, that we've been working on with staff from the Greenway Trust as well as community partners for about 20 years. So 20 years of restoration has been able to really, when you look at restoration from a timeline that's that long, you can really actually see the impacts that's happened. So we've been planting trees along the stream. We've been planting native shrubs, really increasing habitat in that riparian buffer, which is about 100 to 200 feet from the banks of the stream. And we've been doing all of that with a lot of that with volunteer work. So planting, I think over the 20 years, we've planted something like 30,000 native plants in the state park. Wow. As well as restored just over 40 acres of that area. So we've been able to do that with a lot of help from the community and a lot of engagement with our partners in the area to really enhance not only the connection for people who come and explore and appreciate the state park, but a big motivator is the connection to salmon and salmon habitat, because Issaquah Creek is home to all 5 native species of salmon. We've been really focusing on how to enhance that creek system from the habitat level so we can have an enhanced salmon population in the creek. So we've been doing a lot of work there.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it's been really amazing just to be a small part of it and to see from stories and from photos and just over time as the creek has meandered through the state park, how the habitat restoration itself has improved and assisted in that enhancement. So yeah.
Very cool. And now with COVID, are you all still doing work parties? What's going on right now in this crazy time that we're living in, or wild? I don't like saying crazy, but wild time that we're living in.
It's definitely a time. We as an organization have been kind of a little bit taking a more conservative approach to returning to our work parties specifically, but we are looking to restart our volunteer program within the next month or so to really make sure, one, that we're doing so extremely safely, and 2, make sure we have the staff resources to make it happen. The work we do have some seasonal crews and AmeriCorps that are doing work out in the park still. So working on some of our wetlands and working on some of the in-stream work, removing invasive species and preparing either areas that were planted in the past or will be planted hopefully in the fall. So there will be people out there doing a lot of this habitat restoration, and we're really hopeful to get our volunteer program get up and running again on an extremely limited capacity in comparison to other years. This is definitely going to be a very different fall moving into it, but we would really like to start in Lake Sammamish State Park because we have such a long history there, and would really want to be able to continue some of those projects that we've been able to work on.
Awesome. Well, can you tell the folks how to get in touch with you if they're interested in volunteering?
Yeah, if people are interested in volunteering, you can go onto our website, so mtsgreenway.org, and see if any of our events are posted there. But if you're really interested and eager to learn more about how to get involved now, you can reach out directly to me at the volunteer@mtsgreenway.org email and just shoot me an email. I always like to know what you're interested in, if it's habitat restoration, planting trees, removing weeds, or if it's, you're really interested in stewarding a trail that it means something to you, or a trail system that you're interested in hiking on, because we do volunteer work on trails as well. So brushing trails and keeping them open for people to explore and recreate on.
Awesome, fantastic. Well, thank you so much for bearing with us as well as we had our challenges today. I appreciate the work that you do on Mountain to Sound Greenway for supporting the work that I do, and just want to say thank you.
No, thank you. I really appreciate being able to be part of this webinar and also learn from everybody else. So I appreciate it, and technology is something that I'm getting familiar with as well. So you're doing great.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thanks. So folks, we're right at the towards the end. We're gonna do one more video, and this is a throwback, and I feel like we all need this right now. This is from one of our favorites from last year's Sundae Sermon, Gretchen, who will be joining us on a later Sundae Sermon event this series. I believe that I need this, and you all will enjoy this moment of joy, and then I'll come back to close us out.
That was a piece called Will. It's from my first album, Bow and Cello. I actually record my albums with my acoustic cello, and I play classical in Northwest Sinfonietta Orchestra, so I have different hats that I wear, but this is most of my life is the electric cello.
Gretchen is pretty awesome. That was just such a special moment at last year's Sundae Sermon. I just wanted to share that with you all. Y'all, I got my ice cream. I hope you all have had yours today. I think we all need a moment of joy and some ice cream. So I wanted to shout out 12 Scoops again, which is the ice cream shop I mentioned earlier here in Seattle. So support them if you can. The Black Joy Fund, support Black folks finding joy in the ways that we can during this time. I also want to give a special thank you to all of those that joined us today: Zoser, Joseph, Caroline, also Joy, Allison, Sabella for pre-recording those items. I want to thank the team that has worked behind the scenes with me to make this happen. Kamari, Kiwi, Michaela, thank you all. And to our fabulous sponsors, thank you for supporting this. Again, this is the first of 6. Technology is going to get right after this one, trust and believe. So I want to say thank you all again. I hope that you take time to celebrate joy, celebrate Black folks, and celebrate ice cream. All right, that's it. Bye all. Until next time.